witnessing the absolute collapse of one of the biggest Roblox games in history right now. A game that went from a staggering peak of 8 million concurrent players to fighting for its life with barely a fraction of that remaining. This game went from 2 million players every single day now to only 100,000 players. In this video, I'm going to discuss the reason behind Plants vs. Brainrots and its downfall, and you should watch until the end because it's not what you probably had in mind. But before that, hi, my name is Hundi and I make Roblox videos every single week. So make sure to subscribe with the notification bell to help me reach 10,000 subscribers. And since you're here, just leave a like on the video as well, and it only takes a couple seconds, so that will be very much appreciated. Before we can even discuss the current state of the game, we must first go back to the very beginning. Just a few months ago, a game called Plants vs. Brainrots took over the entire platform. It was supposed to be perfect, especially since it was the successor of one of the largest games of history. It took down the tower defense mechanics of Plants vs. Zombies, and it added it with different kinds of brainrots, like for example, Tung 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 Sahur and Ballerina Cappuccina and whatever this is. From an outward perspective, it seems like the game followed the theme of Roblox at the time. It combined the two biggest trends on the platform, which were Steal a Brainrot and Grow a Garden, one of the most massive games in history. And it was genius because it worked. The game hit a peak of 8.6 million concurrent players. This was not just a hit, some of them considered it as the successor of the largest games of history. It was sitting comfortably in the top 3 games of the entire platform, making millions of dollars every single day. The developer behind this project is a name you might even recognize. The name is Jandel. He's the creator of Grow a Garden, another massive hit title that I've said before, and the reason why this is so popular is because it held a world record of around 22 million players. But if you don't know anything about Jandel's history, you know that Grow a Garden didn't stay on the top forever. Grow a Garden suffered a massive, slow, and painful decline due to repetitive updates and lack of community management. And now, it seems like the history is repeating itself, but at a speed we have never seen before. The first major crack in the foundation and the subject for the biggest controversy right now inside Roblox happened during one of its recent admin abuse events. For those of you who do not know, admin abuse events are supposed to be fun. The developers join the game, spawn in crazy items and bosses or mutations as they give out the rewards, and it's generally used to hype up a community. It is supposed to be a celebration. However, Plants vs. Brainrots turned it into a cash grab. According to a video by the Roblox YouTuber CODEZZY around 2 months ago, who was streaming the live event, the developers decided to spawn in a massive unkillable Brainrot. This thing was the 6-7 Brainrot, which at the time was insanely overpowered. It was such a gigantic Brainrot with so much health that no normal plant inside the game could even damage it enough to kill it. It didn't matter if you had the best plants and the best seeds, or if you spent thousands of dollars on your defense, you just can't kill it. There was only one way to defeat this thing, however, as you had to buy a specific item. The developers made it so the only way you could kill this boss was using a lawnmower or a wheelbarrow item that costs 45 Robux. Now, 45 Robux isn't a lot of money if you are someone who already has Robux. It's around 50 cents in terms of American dollars, but when you have hundreds of thousands of children playing your game, those 50 cents do add up to tens of thousands of dollars, or maybe even millions if done consecutively. And here's where the scam comes in, because players like CODEZZY saw this unkillable boss and saw the solution and paid the money. They bought the item to get the 6-7 Brainrot, which was advertised as having an insane amount of money output. It was the best in the game at the time, and it was a pay-to-win item for sure, but at least you got what you paid for. Or so they thought, because immediately after people spent their money to unlock an overpowered pet, the developers nerfed that the next day. They reduced the money that you could get per second significantly, dropping it down to 90,000 or lower, making it far worse than the other items that you could get for free or for even less effort. CODEZZY called this straight up scamming, and I quote, absolutely diabolical. And honestly, it is hard to disagree with them. It is a bait and switch tactic, and they had an unkillable boss which was unkillable free to play, and it was sold around 45 Robux just to get that boss. And then they destroyed the value of that reward after they already had your money. This isn't just about balancing the game, this is straight up predatory. They knew exactly what they were doing, and they just wanted a quick way to get your money, and they were willing to burn their community's trust just to get it. But if you think that is bad, the situation gets far worse. Because while the pay-to-win scam was already hurting casual players, a massive game-breaking bug was destroying the competitive leaderboard which huge YouTubers were trying to chase. In one of the updates, the developers introduced a new item called cards. These cards were supposed to give players buffs, multipliers, and special abilities to help them progress. On paper, it does sound like a standard Roblox gambling update, but in reality, it is what destroyed the game for some players. In one of my videos, I did state that this update was released with a catastrophic flaw. The new card system that was introduced allowed bugs that allowed hackers and exploiters to completely break the game. We were talking about multiple duping glitches which made players have an insane amount of money. And for those of you unaware, duping is when a player uses an exploit to create a duplicate copy of a rare item. In an economy-based game like Plants vs. Brainrots, duping is what destroys games like these. And if you watch this video from Roblox, it is the exact reason for how Grow a Garden's downfall started. Basically, if you can print money, money just becomes worthless. When the developers added these cards, they created a massive mistake in the inventory management code. Hackers realized that by manipulating servers and the response time during a trade or during card activation, they could trick the game into thinking an item was still in their inventory after it had been used or traded. Now with this, hackers began duping the rarest Brainrots and the most powerful cards. They were generating trillions, quadrillions, or even quintillions of in-game cash instantly. This was something that completely destroyed the leaderboards. A hacker could take a mythic rarity card, something that would take weeks of grinding to obtain, and clone it thousands of times in an hour. This impact on the game's economy cannot be overstated, as in Plants vs. Brainrots, the economy was literally everything. You need better plans to beat harder levels in the campaign, and you need better levels to get better rewards. When hackers made trillions of dollars into the economy, they made the grind pointless, because what would actually happen is the question on why legitimate players would even grind 5 hours for a million coins when a hacker can just literally give those trillions of coins in under 5 seconds with just a random brainrot. This made the sense of progression relatively skewed. And in a simulator game, progression is the only thing that even matters. Once you take that away, there is no game left. Before this update, a YouTuber named BacklAsh, who had over 3 million subscribers, was the #1 player in the world. He had grinded the game legitimately for hours every single day just to hold that top 1 spot. It was the main reason he got so popular at the time, reaching millions of views, and he was essentially the best player inside the world. Until overnight, it was erased. The leaderboard was flooded with bots and hackers and random accounts that used dupe glitches to bypass months of hard work in seconds. BacklAsh himself released a video stating that there is no point in chasing the leaderboard anymore and that the competitive side of the game was gone. This is why BacklAsh and other YouTubers quit. It wasn't about just losing the #1 spot, it was about realizing that the game he loved and the game he dedicated his channel to had become fundamentally broken. So when the biggest content creators of a game leave, the people who were essentially advertising your game to millions of people, by the way, just because the game was broken, this puts a game, or not even just Plants vs. Brainrots, any game in trouble. And this brings us to the most concerning part of the story. It is the silence. Despite these massive issues, the scamming allegations and the duping glitches, the leaderboard issue, and the developers being surprisingly quiet, there have been no massive rollbacks to fix the economy. There was no refund to fix the nerfed 6-7 Brainrot, and it feels like the developers don't even care. This lack of action is reminding a lot of people of what happened to Grow a Garden. As ViewSim, this other YouTuber that's very popular to making guides of the game, pointed out inside his video that Grow a Garden didn't die overnight. It died a slow death because people stopped fixing core issues. It went from being one of the largest games in history and currently the second most played game in history, and it's now just struggling to even have 100,000 players. Plants vs. Brainrots follow the exact same trajectory, but this time it's so much even faster. The player count has dropped from the peak of 8 million players to around 100,000 to maybe even 200,000 players daily. And sometimes it would even be below Grow a Garden. Now don't get me wrong, 100,000 players is still a lot. Most Roblox developers would kill for these numbers, but when you look at the trend line, it is such a vertical drop. It has lost 90% of its player base in a matter of weeks. The community sentiment has turned toxic, and if you do go for the Discord servers, it's filled with people spamming L and complaining about pay-to-win mechanics. And for example, the Commando Apple, another paid item that was only sold for around 60,000 units, which is going to be a pitiful number for a game this size, and proving that players are tired of just paying money for a game such as this. And it's not even just the pay-to-win stuff, it's the laziness. CODEZZY pointed out that in one of these events called the prison event, it was just literally recycled content. They took an old event and slapped the same thing and told us to give your money. When you combined recycled content with game-breaking bugs and predatory monetization, of course the backlash would be massive. And it doesn't end there, because we also need to talk about Jandel's previous creations like Grow a Garden and A Dusty Trip. Now, just for some context, when he bought the game and started developing on it, that game was such a massive hit. And I mean 20 million players after 20 million player updates, and it had everything going on for it. But it died eventually because the updates were so repetitive. They stopped adding new, exciting mechanics and started recycling old events, which gave them a huge amount of backlash. Now, this isn't so different from the prison event in Plants vs. Brainrots being a copy-paste job. It seems like Jandel just buys games and kills them, making the same mistakes made with Grow a Garden. It shows a lack of creativity and a lack of effort. It looks like that the team is either burnt out or just simply doesn't care about what they're trying to create anymore. When you have a game of millions of players, of course, imagine the amount of money you make. I wouldn't be surprised if they're making millions every single month. So, of course, anyone with a sound mind would try to keep these games alive. Roblox players are smart, and they know when they are being served recycled garbage. And they also have millions of other games to choose from. The competition on Roblox is hard, especially since other games are getting heavily botted like The Forge and Fish It, which I have made videos about, so just check those out if you just want to know the context. But for example, games such as Fish It, they are fighting for the same audience. If Plants vs. Brainrots drops terrible recycled trash, there are 10 other better games that are going to be taking their players. And not only that, the community's reaction towards this whole issue was so bad. The backlash of the game went to Discord, Twitter, and even some YouTubers calling the game out. The developers don't seem like they care. Honestly, for me, I think that this isn't a problem of the game anymore, but the developers. Some YouTubers posted videos saying that I spent 1,000 Robux and got nothing, the new update ruined the game, and why am I quitting Plants vs. Brainrots? These weren't haters, these were genuine players who loved playing the game and were just feeling underwhelmed about the value that they were getting. These are people who loved the game and wanted it to succeed. However, the developers, and I'm calling out Jandel because they do feel betrayed. And honestly, they have every right to be. They supported this game, they bought the game passes, they played for hours, and in return, they just get scammed, ignored, or just get fed recycled content. And what do Jandel and the developers have to say? They actually have nothing. They just move on to another game and make it the next option of kids trying to get their Robux. You can have the best idea in the world, you can have the best marketing, you can have the best launch in history like Grow a Garden, but if you just lose the trust of your community, then you have basically nothing. And it seems that they don't understand that. It's honestly heartbreaking to see, as this game had so much potential. I even made a video about it inside the past of how much I loved it, and it was a fresh idea, well, aside from the Brainrots of course, but it brought people together. It had a massive, vibrant community, and now it seems like it's being squandered because the developers seem to care more about squeezing every last Robux out of their players than creating a sustainable and fair experience. Plants vs. Brainrots is considered to be dead in reality since most of the players left are just bots. Unless the developers manage to wake up, apologize for scams, or fix the economy and start listening to their community, this game would probably be dead by next year. We are witnessing the biggest fumble in Roblox history, a game that had everything laid out but just decided to crush it for just a quick buck. It is a tragedy, but it is also a lesson. It's a lesson that no matter how big you are, no matter how many millions you have, and you just can't treat your players or your community like garbage. And that's more of a message towards the developers. Honestly, the game could lose more players down to 50,000 if Jandel can't pull anything. Because with how this looks, it seems like the game just lacks passion. Unlike examples like The Forge, they can continue this path of greed and negligence. And they could just basically watch their game burn down to the ground. Or they could take responsibility first and say sorry. Sure, redemption or returning to how it was is completely impossible, so the downfall of this game is truly unfixable. I'm glad that it might be gone, and for some of you guys watching this video, you might think the same. There are plenty of other developers on Roblox who respect their players, so just go support them instead. However, this has been the story of Plants vs. Brainrots, a story of a game which was very popular inside the past and was supposed to be a world record holder, but instead it was shattered by greed. However, since most Roblox players who watch this video think of this as a Roblox game SLOP, for some this was the satisfying downfall of Plants vs. Brainrots. And I am Hundy, and until the next video, goodbye.